Right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Wilmington Capital Improvement Program Committee to order. It is 7:01 p.m. In attendance, we have Jennifer McCoo, Christine Milos, myself, James Marshall, Jeremy Brothers, Jason Ross. And that is all for tonight. So far. Yeah. All right. Present to speak. Alex, you got any interest? We only have one in the room. I'll open it up online. If you have anything you'd like to say, please feel free to raise your hand and unmute. All right, hearing nothing, we will have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. First up under new business 3A, we have the approval of the minutes from December 10th. It should be the first things in your packet.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that through.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Go back to minutes that Lisa prepared, so there. All right, hearing no comments, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. I'm actually going to move that we add something to the agenda just to discuss at the end of new business, discussion of the fact that you have an email in your packet related to new business. Our business manager is taking some time off, Donna, so I just want to talk through that, hoping that Mike is about to attend. So I'm gonna move that we add to item 3G, discussion, business manager temporary leave.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, welcome.
Thank
For the
you.
record, who joined us at 7:03 p.m. All right. You just approved the minutes, Mike, just to catch you up to speed from our last meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So a couple of sheets back behind those minutes, you will see the draft for the, to the best of my knowledge, current and set department budget season calendar with department interviews laid out throughout. I've also captured other critical dates on the Board of Finance's budget calendar that was approved following our last meeting on their part, just to see how we fit in the schedule. Tonight we'll go over kind of stage setting, reviewing where we stand, fund source summary, stuff like that, and prep for the interviews for the next 5 or 6 weeks. Does anybody, I tried to lay this out, or as I laid this out, there weren't too many updates, but I kept the senior center and the fire departments towards the tail end of the schedule, specifically because I want to give them time to address any potential submissions, and the emergency services building facilities building committee report. I'm hoping we have some of that information before they come in to discuss.
Did you give them 2 slots on purpose?
I did. I put them in for next week just as kind of an informal discussion.
Okay.
Hoping, I know the committee meets on tomorrow night. I don't know if they're gonna have a report, but I'd like to get a handle on, how this fits in the picture, at least informally, while you guys are waiting to finalize that, so that.
What date is the last one? Sorry.
We have you on for the.
February 11th. That might actually be good. It'd be the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, I put you at the tail end, hoping that both the committee and departments, we have.
Might have some discussion about that
Okay,
at some point.
yep. Yeah, we don't need to address it. and Board of Ed is gonna come in, I know you guys have a meeting, Jen,
Tuesday.
budget meeting Tuesday before this, so, Phil will pop in. Whenever you guys wrap, maybe upstairs, I don't know, last year it worked out well, you guys finished right before us, but we'll find out. Space in this building is gonna get very packed very quickly for the next 3 months. So everybody's gonna be fighting for space. I did reach out to the senior center. They were not able to get submissions in. They are interested in renewing. Karen, Human Services reached out and responded on their behalf, but I don't believe with the transition they've had at the senior center, they've kind of wrapped their minds around it yet. So I will continue to talk with them and see if we can make sure that we're at least capturing their existing requests. And then our goal here is to get out ahead of the selectmen's presentation to the Board of Finance. So a hopeful committee approval of the plan by the end of February, or our last meeting in February. We have other dates if needed, but we don't present to the Board of Finance until March 12th. And then it's right into appropriations and budget hearings and whatnot. So I'm hoping, Mike, that this committee has a plan that can kind of roll into your presentation and your budget to the Board of Finance this season, rather than it trailing. So.
I would agree, and I definitely, as I'm starting to get my head wrapped around operating and capital budget from the first selectman's perspective, I will keep in touch so that as we figure out how those come together, it won't be surprises. It's still a little bit in the works. I have meetings next week with the rest of my team in the building, and I'm scheduling budget meetings with the other selectmen coming up soon. So again, my goal will be that it isn't there aren't surprises, even though we are coming into this very late. It is a little challenging coming into office at the beginning of budget season, but that's enough of me complaining. I just got to figure out a way to get it to you.
Well, we will do what we can to get out of your way. To the greatest extent we can. So.
Yeah, and just since I'm on the, going back to the facilities building committee, the same thing there. I'm pushing, and we'll push in our meeting tomorrow night to get something out there that gives us something to work with if we need to be working into this budget process, or let you know that we're not going to need to.
Yep. All right, more to come.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, anything? Look. Like we did, I pushed the data on for land use, and there's a chance the Conservation Commission on there. Their request is the same as last year. She said, hold the date. I won't be able to be there for questions, but we can discuss it. If we need her to come in for questions, she'll come in on the 28th as well. So, I didn't know how we feel when we reviewed it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
That's good.
All right. No further discussion, moving on. I included what did I label this thing? Fund description summaries. So we pulled this together last year. I don't think it was ever finalized. It's sent to you guys after the draft. There hasn't been much change, with the exception of I did capture that Urban Act grant program. That's the one that the Schofield and the Schofield Road Drainage DPW is working on now. It's the $2 million grant awarded to Wellington. I just captured it on here. It's our first use of that, since it shows up as a funding source in our spreadsheet. It's on page 3, 4. Sorry, page 4 of that. No other changes, just Jason, you're Board of Finance. You're aware of most of the stuff, but given that we have a new member, I just wanted to have it out and refresh it for all.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
about this stuff? So not being super familiar at all with like how to do grants and things like that.
Yep.
Do these happen just by virtue of us being a town in Connecticut, and they just like are grants that we are awarded, or like I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we can figure out how to go get more grants.
So usually it's the town. My hope as first selectman, I'll let you speak to this in greater detail than I
Right.
will. The town generally applies or seeks and solicits these grants. Some are competitive, such as the Steve grant. So it's really a function of the town deciding and electing to pursue. We track some of these things like the Steve grant as a potential opportunity to offset, like if we can pursue it and happen to get the award. It's advantageous, but this really kind of falls outside in many aspects. Many of these grants fall outside of. Like, we're not applying for anything directly. It's the departments and individual.
I mean, I guess I kind of knew that we weren't applying for them, but, I feel like there's a way or space or some. I'm trying to figure out how to advocate for a part-time grant writer or something like that. And I think if. I'm completely probably out of our purview at this point, but if we had a grant writer. Would earn back their salary like times 10 probably.
It's a very important specialized skill set for sure.
Yeah, and we don't have one of this.
Absolutely.
So I would just, I don't know where that conversation falls, but I think that we should probably have it. I don't know if we should have it, but someone in this town should have it.
Well, I mean, I think that's a recommendation, understanding that this committee, any opportunity to solicit and secure grant funds for any of these capital projects is a good one. And proactively going after them. It's really, I think, it's a request or a recommendation of this committee to the Board of Selectmen, to say that, any opportunity to aggressively pursue grant opportunities is a good one. It's up to the Board of Selectmen to figure out how best integrate that into that workflow. That makes sense, Mike?
So, yeah, I'll just very briefly comment on it. And really, you have a good resource sitting next to you, Jim, with Christina, because she knows how a lot of these programs, because they've been in existence for years. She knows how they play out. But in short, there are essentially two channels. And actually, I was in an email conversation with someone from CROG today. There are sort of two channels. There are these, you might say, grants of opportunity where you see something that might work and you seek it. And then there are what you might call these rolling grants like STEEP and LOCIP and things like that, that essentially become available each year or each funding cycle. And you just have to have a project that either qualifies for it or that is within the range that you could apply. And some of them basically, as long as you can meet the parameters, you just kind of can keep getting it as long as you keep submitting something that meets the parameters. There's some amount of money each year. Some of them are a little more competitive, but essentially you see these names come up each year. A great example is we were just notified that the grant that the town clerk has been applying for each year to digitize vital records came through again. And so we have another $5,000 worth of grant work coming in digitizing records. That grant has been rolling out for years. You just have to wait each year to see if it gets funded by the legislature. And then they send out a notice, and I'm going to oversimplify it. They basically say, well, do you want some money for this? And do you have a qualifying task? And the town clerk responds back, yes, we want the money. Here's our task. And they write back and say, good, that works. You've been awarded whatever the formula tells you. This year it's $5,000. And one last comment on seeking grants. The good news is we have increasing support from CROG on supporting the communities within CROG on notifying and making awareness of grants, and even having some support in writing and seeking the grants. And we also are coming into state campaign season, and that is effective in us getting the attention of our local people who are running for re-election in 2026 to help us know when programs are available and all that. So
Yeah, but I know some of the departments like Karen, Cote, Human Services reached out. I know she's been in contact with Karen, with Tammy about potential funding opportunities for the generator request that they had under here. Again, it was a, hey, can you forward the information we sent you, or the senior center provided last year so that I can send it along to Tammy to see if we can move this along. So, the more we can, yeah, I guess, Mike, that the more you can work with all the various departments, as I'm sure you already are, to just make sure everybody's pursuing, the better off and the easier our work is here.
Absolutely.
Yep. Any other
I have a
thoughts?
quick question, it's not really on the topic of grants, but about raising money for the town, right? So we have plots of town-owned land, right? How, is there a way we could go about like leasing the land to someone for some kind of use? If we lease the land instead of selling it, it would be like a net gain every year, a revenue source, and then we could then in turn use that money to pay for stuff in town. I don't know if this is the forum for that
I think it's
conversation.
probably your board of finance, that's more.
I just don't know where to bring that up. This is
Yeah.
the first meeting I've been to since I
Yeah.
thought of that after talking to some other people.
Yeah.
The answer to Jason is yes. And we actually sent out a small one this week. We sent out solicitations for the haying bid for town parcels that are traditionally good for haying. And it's not a lot of money, but it does bring in some money. So that will be coming. And the general topic of looking at all our land, we did have a resident send a letter to the Board of Finance, the Board of Ed, and the Board of Selectmen about looking at all our property and what are we doing with our property? Are we taking proper care of it? And I think, Jason, your thoughts about leasing or seeing what income opportunities should definitely be part of that conversation.
Yeah, that's what kind of spurred it, was that letter. And then I was talking to my brother-in-law, and that's kind of what he does for his career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to,
Where does he live?
I'm joking. So it's a different scale, obviously, but yeah. I just thought it would be useful for our town and be like a net gain and help us out a little bit if we can do something like that. I just didn't know the appropriate forum for which to have that conversation.
Well, hearing that we're well into budget season, I know, and that letter speaks to it, and I think it was sent. You have a letter in your packets that
Yeah.
Mike sent along, and it's the correspondence.
Yeah, I think it was last.
Came to the selectmen, yeah, I know, it's quite followed up on our discussions, trying to get kind of a more collaborative joint. Wide community board wide discussion on,
Yeah,
long-term financial planning strategies, and I'm hoping, Mike, once we get out of the crush of budget season, that we can continue those discussions, maybe more collaboratively with some joint meetings. To kind of flesh out how to address many of the large capital projects and, just general big picture planning for long-term town needs.
Agreed.
All right. Anything else on fund summary? Any questions? Because they just a clarification on all the little numbers in the funding source on our spreadsheet.
Hey, I appreciate it. That's very helpful.
All right. Moving on then, you guys have a copy of the first draft of the update of the spreadsheet that input all of the requests that we received this year that were known or that were unknown. I also sent along that summary of all the requests. There's like a couple of hundred pages of these individual project submissions, because they're multiple pages. There were 100 or so. I didn't send all of them to you. I'll include them in your packets as we have the departments in, because I didn't want to. You guys are gonna forget to bring them anyway. In all likelihood, you know, they're gonna sit in a pile somewhere in your house, when you need them, rather than bring them each minute, so you'll have them fresh the week before, any of the departments come in, the specific requests. But the summaries basically capture most, if not all, of the information that's on those anyway, so. You have it as a reference. On this sheet, the yellow highlights are new or modified requests. The green are either need further information, or we as the committee will need to, you know, do a deeper discussion on them. At least in my initial opinion, and run through these things. How do you guys wanna? Do you wanna just kind of look through and field questions, or do you wanna run down the list and just generally see where things are at?
I mean, I think it might be helpful to at least start with the new stuff.
Let's just run down then. So line 4, the big change from last year, and it's only a big change. It's a bigger change from last year. That's the annual transfers for school reserve. The request came in from the Board of Ed for 1.25 million, which is up from the reduced $1 million request. The $1 million request last year that was reduced by throughout the budget season down to 625,000. So that is a notable jump now because of last year's budget discussions. But not far off of the $1 million request and tracking. I think, again, we'll discuss that with the Board of Ed and our superintendent when they come in next week and just go over what the expectations were there. But that's a notable jump. The other new request is for the utility terrain vehicle we touched on. We reviewed this last meeting. And it's a joint request. I put it up there under Board of Ed because it technically came from Phil and our superintendent. The other three, the 3 in green, 5 through 7, lines 5 through 7, they roof. And so those are carryovers from a prior. What I think we're gonna find is that flagging them or holding them here, it is throwing off the fund balance summaries because they do track as an expenditure or as a, when we get there. So we may want to look at, since those aren't active requests. We may want to look at whether or not, given the school building committee and where that falls out, whether they become kind of closed out, and then depending on where the results of the school building committee falls. And project the referendum, that can come back as a new request if that's the direction. And we go following wherever we end up in June. But this way, at least we go into the season without that draw on the fund balance for Fund 04. This is school building committee is likely gonna want to know how much money is available as they come up with funding strategy. Speaking of which, school building committee, I captured this because this is what we did with the prior school building committee. I captured a new grouping. And I rolled what we were tracking as placeholder values for a potential school project under a school building committee tab, because that is where that will fall. And any request for funding will be tracked to that committee in all likelihood moving forward. Just making you guys aware, similar to what we did for the emergency services facilities building committee last year, where the committee itself has the funding.
How much did was it 200,000 that we approved for the last school, at least for operating funds?
It was,
Yeah.
it was 100,000 and 100,000, right?
Yeah, the first one was 100,000, and as they started spending money, they went back for another 100,000.
So they haven't met yet
I mean, on Monday.
so, but there'll be a number to put in there for that.
Yeah, to some degree. So no. And
No.
yes and no. That's a larger discussion we're gonna have, because the reality is the school building committee is not gonna have any, by the time we have this prepared, in advance budget season, the school building committee isn't gonna have any realistic value.
Oh,
And any funding is gonna be coming out of, that we can track it as prior approved, because it'll be in this year.
mhm.
I know the Board of Finance has located, I think it was 73,000, Mike, something like that.
Yeah, it was close to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right, so yeah, which is not yet voter approved, because the committee doesn't have that funding, but it's not a request that's gonna be in like year
In
one of our
year one,
budget. So,
right,
the other thing to consider as discussions advance on this is, given that we're not gonna know what this picture looks like,
Mhm.
until after the fact, how this plan captures, because if it passes referendum, there will be year one commitment, but we have no knowing what that is.
Right,
My initial
Right.
thought is, yes, this was a tracker now, but. You know, we're gonna capture that as a zero value, so that it's a kind of a clean slate would be my initial recommendation, so that, because voters are gonna approve spending on that separately at referendum.
yeah,
So I don't want, we're not gonna approve some random value and have it muddle the conversation,
right,
so.
right.
But we can go into that at great length as we
Yeah.
debate the merits of this later. Which is why it's highlighted in green, we need to look at it, and, similar with the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee and those projects. We don't have any information to discuss them. I don't know if they're gonna be ready for funding this year. I don't know what projects they're looking at yet, so. I don't know how that factors into this picture yet, and we will discuss that at great length again, I'm sure, next week and later on. Not too much. I did, as I mentioned, following our meeting last month, Chief Snyder did reach out, said to consider the requests that they had from last year as renewed. I checked, I was able to renew them myself, even though they weren't my requests I didn't know that was an option, but I was able to, so I did refresh those, if you're listening, Chief Snyder, tomorrow, the next day.
That's why I got the email that my submissions were, because we did them together, so they're all under my account.
Yep, there you go, so I went in and renewed them for you, because, with that.
You're welcome.
I submitted more.
No, I just wanted to make sure we were tracking them, because I went in to go print them knowing that they were active, and I'm like, oh, I can just renew it, so we're gonna do that. It was, the two requests were the, where is it on here, the replace, 149 or 27. That hadn't been submitted, but was added, and the, roof repair. Which is showing up somewhere, it's row 24. Both of them were year two. So the only thing I flagged here again is, it was a discussion point last year, we kept it on the plan, but the 110 that's sitting there. For the prior engineering. At Old Farms Road, that remains a discussion, as because it is a hold on. Funds in Fund 04.
Probably a dumb question, but why is the parking lot replacement still on?
That's prior. That's the first column is previous is.
Prior
we've
approved, that was
and
last
that's the
year.
Follow-up, they're working on it, but it's not closed out yet, so.
Okay,
That first row is everything, I transferred basically everything in year one was
I just
transferred.
wanted to make sure that it was tracked, that it was doing on, it wasn't just.
Nope, it is approved, I have not, sorry, I should have started this, I did reach out to Donna before the start of the year. And again, before the start of this week, before the announcement that, you know, she's taking some time off, so I have not met with Donna, I don't have fund balances, to date yet. Nor did I have a chance to go through and check on the status of projects that were approved and where
Okay,
things stand.
I
So
wanted to double check.
it's all rolled over. It's, again, this is the initial draft. So what you see in that prior approved are the ones that I'm aware of as being open through prior
Okay.
conversations or through last year's approvals. All right, no other big changes for EMS. Public Works, they moved, trying to think what we did. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to think of what I did here. There's a new request. It showed up as a year one request for another compact roller replacement. I don't have much detail on that yet. Other than it wasn't on our plan last year and now all of a sudden it needs replacement. So. That's a new one. And then, they renewed requests. We pushed. Liska. Culverts. I think, because we were trying to stagger some of the work, so they did renew that request for the Liska culverts for it would be year one now. That's how it's flagged in our system, which is why it's highlighted yellow.
Yeah.
We moved it to green, 2 years out. We pushed it back last year.
Mhm.
So I did not move it in our plan as of yet, but just be aware that that's the case. He also renewed, and Mike, I don't know if you can speak to it, line 46. The stormwater treatment chamber, that was approved for LoCIP in year one in our plan last year, but Troy did renew it as a new request for this year.
What, does it indicate the location? Is that the one up at the Public Works garage?
Yeah, it's up at,
Public Works Stormwater Treatment Chamber.
I think is that the
Yes.
dump? Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's the off of the parking lot at Public Works. And
Yeah.
that is a MS4 and maybe a deep requirement also because of the salt at the garage. And I believe it was delayed for engineering, but I can't remember for sure. They submitted their requests before I came on board because they were trying to make the due date, and I didn't come on board until right before your due date. So I had to sort of review them afterwards.
Okay.
But if I remember right, that one had been delayed because of waiting for engineering. And Carl, our town engineer, we've asked him to prioritize finishing the Schofield, the Village Hill design.
Yep.
Because Village Hill needs to be the next one in the line, sort of. And so that
All right.
delayed the stormwater thing.
Yeah, so it's not a supplemental request. I guess so as far as
It was approved, he just probably wants to bring the funds back
it was.
next year, right?
Well, it was approved. Technically, we have a
Right.
hold now, for 45,000 and most that he would need to go and request the funds from Board of Finance and ultimately.
Right.
Town approval. It just hasn't happened yet, so I think it's just be aware, Mike, that I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a new request or a supplemental request and, we can go through that with Troy when he comes in.
No, my understanding is that's just the old request sort of working its way along following the calendar.
Yeah. All right. And then we go on to the library. So, last year, if you'll recall, they submitted everything under a single request, multiple different projects across multiple different years. The new library director has gone in and added both new items, and also transitioned formal individual submissions. So we have them identified with their own individual project numbers now, which is great. Their own individual submission details. He did shift quite a bunch around, and added a couple others. There was, for example, he's got roof replacements for both sloped and shingled roof portions over at that library in different years. Previously, it was like a year 5 request for $10,000 to do a roof study. I think he's gotten further detail on those, and that's why they're in there. We've talked about some of them, the phone conversion, copper to voice, to voice over IP. You'll see the unfinished basement is on here as a year 3 request for the teen room. We talked about that. When we did the tours this season, they brought that up. They're trying to reinvigorate that. That'll be a big one to discuss. And then most of the rest are basic facility upgrades or repairs. The 2 most recent one, phone conversion and security cameras, are both year 1 currently, so. Mike, I didn't hear from you for selectmen. Peter, and the prior board had, both replacement of the floors in the upstairs common room as a request that would now be year 1, but they were not renewed in the portal this year. You have any update?
I may have misunderstood the information was turned over to me from Pete, and I actually did not realize that was even in there. So
Yeah.
I apologize for, all I can tell you is I have no information on it, and I'll look into it tomorrow. This is the first I've heard of it.
It's not overly urgent, I just, yeah, so that was one that was being tracked, I think. He pushed it to year 2 last year, so it just shows up in year 1 now. The other one is, the animal control facility, I know it's moving along for regionalization, which is great. Whether or not we're carrying a hold for the repair of that, of our existing animal control facility, or whether it looks optimistic enough that we can kind of eliminate that.
What was it in for previously? Oh, the amount.
375,000.
Okay. I'll get you more
It's
information
not-
tomorrow. I do know that I have a Zoom. It might be a Zoom meeting tomorrow, actually. I have a Zoom in the next few days with the team and going over. We did just get notified we got at least some, if not all, of the grant money that was applied for the regionalization. So I just don't know what the numbers are. But like I said, that Zoom meeting is the next couple work days. So I'll get you an update on that too.
Yeah, I think that that 375 value was the value of the cost if we were to bring our existing building up to functional again.
Yeah, that
the
sounds familiar. That does sound familiar, and I believe that our share is going to be very minimal if this regional thing plays out the way we hoped.
Great. Assessor did not resubmit, but that's not a big discussion point. Their request from last year, again, it's for the reval every 5 years.
Yeah.
There is no change to it. I just carried it out for another year, as tracking for year 5. Open space fund, no change. The request from last year, she did submit the request new, but it doesn't change. It's 40,000 a year to replenish the open space fund for the next 5 years. Plan of conservation and development was not. No, it was renewed.
Jim, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
So the open space, so did we approve 40 or was it cut?
It
off?
was less last year,
So
35,000.
should that be in the prior approved?
It's kind of a recurring transfer, so I
Yeah.
didn't capture it as like, it's not something we're gonna. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
not something we have to follow up on because it's a fund transfer.
Right.
I can. Put it there. I can just, actually, what I will do is say. I think it was 35K in,
Yeah, see the 30. I know we
look it up.
got it.
If you give me 1 second,
Okay.
here we go. While this loads up, plan of conservation and development, I flagged that as green just as a discussion point. Mike will come in and speak to that on the 28th, Mike D'Amato. I think that value is if it's done largely in-house. I know the committee had some questions as to, I believe the staff maybe. I've had some questions previously about whether there's a need to, whether it makes more sense to outsource that as for a degree of independence, or I'd have to go back and look at the minutes, but it's just something we should look at because that value will go up if it's not done in-house. And then we have some new requests below that for Parks and Rec. We talked about the lighting and replacement of a little guardrail over at the River Road Athletic Complex. We'll talk about those when we have the opportunity to. And then senior center. I mentioned that Karen Code. Sorry if I'm butchering your last name, Karen. I think it's Code, right? Code. Emphasis on the wrong syllable. I don't know. So she did say they were wrapped up in other things. They did not get a chance to resubmit. I told her we would try to work with her. She's at the end of our schedule. I have not had follow-up yet, but I will reach out and see if there's any movement. I was informed that the or we discussed this last week, so I don't know, again, but I think they have some internal transition as to who's whole handling that facilities upgrade. Okay, let's see, before I close this up and move on, it was 35,000 last year.
Yeah.
Replenished, they dropped it 5, I think, as a part of the selectmen's discussions.
And the only reason why I would recommend just putting those numbers in is that if we go forward with the 40 and it ends up in the budget, it's gonna show an increase of
Yeah.
whatever percentage, and then we'll remember why that is.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, so what I'll do, similar to what we did for line 2 for lines 3 and 4, I didn't put it in the prior group, because then it throws up all of our
Yeah,
numbers, but you know, just track what the value was, so that we have this point of reference. All right, so page 2 of this is where the prior approved does reflect what was approved last year. Those were our values from last year's plan. I transferred them over so that we could compare and see the jump, basically, it's the reason there, and the big, so that 1,587,000 local spending, is what was approved last year, and it was down from the 1,749,000 in the year prior. I think originally we were at like 2.1 or even 2.3 million. And those cuts really came from the transfer to school reserve
yeah,
fund, which brought that down quite a bit, in addition to other cuts throughout. That local spending target as if reductions hadn't been made from the last 2 years, essentially. So we would be tracking for a local spending target with the increases of about 2.3. We are projected, based on everything we have in year 1 currently, to be at 2.564, which is almost $1 million greater than what it was last year, than what was approved by in the final budget last year, which is what we are trying to avoid with these big jumps, but it's harder and harder every year as we try to cut spending. So that'll be getting that number down to a degree that we can, will be wonderful. But it, again, depending on how these big bonded projects, it jumps again next year because bond payments, you know, start to get projected potentially. I don't know how that's gonna track out, but this is just that initial. And they're probably out of order, quite frankly, because the school came quicker than expected, and I don't know where the fire department, whether that's gonna drag out further or not, but that'll be the big discussion point again, and I'm not sure, in all honesty, how much viable information we're gonna get to make informed decisions until after our season is over this year again. But we will try.
That just means next year's gonna be really fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, and that's something we can discuss as we work through these, you know, what the approach is for balancing that, that anticipated spending. Versus the anticipated, the unknown draw. We can. I don't know what it's gonna be in year 1, is the problem, and we're not gonna know, and it's just gonna be something that voters have to figure out.
Yeah.
When the school building committee gets on board. Gonna be a fun season.
Always are.
Yeah. Yeah, beyond that, not too many other big surprises. I do not know where, Mike just touched on it, but, you know, where the status of the engineering for Schofield and, Village Hill fall. Whether that engineering's been completed yet, because I will ask Troy when he comes in. It seems like it's still kind of hanging, and that work on that first phase for actual design or construction is not yet there. But it's grant, so it's not gonna immediately hit the budget, which is great. Mike, do we have any, the steep grant, is the existing one closed, or is that gonna be a drag out? You don't have to have the answer now, but
That's Old Town Hall you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah, we have passed the end of the grant extension. And so that steep grant, the project, for the septic is complete. The project for the windows has some straggling, work. Regardless, the grant itself has passed its period, so we will be closing it out. It's just a matter of some paperwork from the contractor, which because the contractor hasn't finished the work, we don't have the proper paperwork to close that out, but we're pushing to do that. We had a Zoom meeting with the owner of Scholar Painting today. And we're meeting him at the Old Town Hall tomorrow to review the remaining 3 windows that have to get installed and some cleanup work on the work they already did. And my hope is we'll be able to wrap that up in the next 2 weeks.
great. Yeah, that's just to speak to Jen's earlier question about, that's one of those ones that we're tracking, that salt shed that will never go away.
Yeah.
Uh, whether or not we have the ability to reply, or whether it's, it's one of those things we keep on year 1 to show that we are trying to address it. Or year 2 to show that we're trying to address it. I just wanna understand. Yeah, we'll just wanna get a feel for where that can go. So that's it. Same as last year. We got a lot more spending, big jump from last year, in the year prior approved, and we'll take it from there. Any other thoughts, big concerns, questions before we move on? All right. More to come.
Thank you for doing this. Great.
That's nice to have it out of the way early this year. To the extent that we can. All right. Next up, I sent this along, I didn't go through, I hate PowerPoint. So what you see are my really crude markups, just to kind of update our fleet spreadsheet. Pictorial fleet spreadsheet with what I believe are modifications. Alex, both chiefs, responded through discussion that it looks like it's generally accurate. We can go in and make those. I just wanted you guys to have kind of this. I have not heard from DPW to make sure to verify everything is accurate on the DPW side.
Is the roller on DPW?
So
I don't think it is.
it, I believe they're talking about, it may be related to the 1988 John Deere. But I don't know. That's a big question.
There is a really old roller sitting right when you walk in. and
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
think that's what it is,
I
Yeah.
think it is too.
because I think, I didn't see it in this, but I did see it in writing somewhere.
Compact roller.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2510.
I thought in writing it was replacing the 1988 roller.
That's why I flagged that. I don't know whether it's just a piece of equipment for that 88.
It was a replacement, I thought.
Yeah,
It might have been in that stuff you sent me, but I don't see it.
2510. It's on page 409 of ours, the summary. Compact roller core equipment replaces the current 1988 compact roller.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
I don't see it in the pictures,
no, because I
but I do.
yeah,
don't have that yet. From,
and it's probably like literally these pictures are from,
yeah, I know.
I think it was the COVID year, cause I remember. It was really cold out and I used Snapchat and I put the labels on when I did it, so.
You see just an edge of it next to the sweeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably.
You can actually just see the edge of it.
Next to the sweeper,
Next to the sweeper, yeah. If you look right to
Oh,
the
yeah.
left, you can see just the edge of it, and then you can see the whacker, packer,
yeah.
plate whacker.
Yeah, so I just probably didn't take a picture, we probably didn't discuss it that day and I didn't know. But that's my fear. That there's more things like that.
So because I don't know anything about DPW and the size of our town versus how much equipment we're supposed to have or how much we need. I feel like that would be really helpful. There has to be, I would imagine, a standard somewhere that says. Probably not exact because you can't do exact different terrain, whatever, but, it would be great to know kind of what the common practice is, like a town of this size geographically or with this much population or. It just seems like a lot. And it would just be good to know, if that information exists. So we can assess like our fleet and know if it's.
No,
outrageous or-
I understand the concern, I'm. Not sure how to approach that.
I think,
That GBT.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a couple different, like, Krog, I think, had done a study years ago. Just ask, it was like a survey asking for different things from the different towns to submit, so, but it's limited to what did people submit, and then the whole thing is, we have a lot of. Every town's different how they approach their things, so, like, we don't have a big lake that we have to take care of like Coventry does. They have other equipment
Right.
that we don't have, and we have a lot of dirt roads, so we need extra things. For that some towns don't need, and we have a lot of snow plowing that has to happen. We close some roads, so we don't do it. So there's all that. And then there's the metric of how long does it take to do a snowplow route? And so that's
Big part of that.
that was a big part of how do you do it, but you can also snowplow in a lot of different ways and use contractors, or somebody can use a pickup truck to do the dirt roads or and the parking lots, and so you can take some of the load away,
Or
but
we can get a UTV.
yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, other than,
I don't have the historic, like, I don't know, if this has grown or expanded over time, because I
Yes.
don't have the historic precedent,
yes, it has.
This is what I've seen and we're keeping it up to date, but
Well, and I can say it in my time, the way it was. Before me and up until me was, we had three dump trucks and that we own. And then the rest of it was contracted out. And so we have added to the fleet, and then we also have added,
Lost subcontractors.
right, and
You
so,
still got the same amount of road, you just lost subcontractors, so
Right.
you've got to supplement your subcontractor.
right, so
That's
we
why
have.
your fleet-
So we have more trucks and we have employees driving them, too. And then. The other thing that's different is we would contract out. Just not even do the paving and the chip sealing and all that we had a special budget for that. Now the guys are doing more of that work.
Yeah.
So we need more equipment to do that work. And then. We take care of that equipment, so the maintenance line is up more than the road repair line.
So
It's,
I feel like the conversation is important to have in whatever context it is, if we can figure out somehow if it makes sense to continue to invest in equipment, if it's saving us money on the other side. Like,
so what the cost avoidance is, what the,
yeah,
the budgetary impact is,
And
for,
I-
like, what the cost of paying a contractor.
I think
was to do
each
the work.
Yeah.
year
If I
we,
did it, maybe, that's a whole discussion.
the snow plowing, I think is different. We've had, every year we've had conversations about how challenging it is to find people.
but yeah, it's just you can't do it the old way anymore. It's not possible, sounds like.
I feel like part of our job on this committee is to have those kinds of like 10,000 feet conversations.
Yes.
Okay.
And I agree, we also. Do wind up getting in the wheelhouse of relying on the expertise of the selectman's office. The DPW staff to kind of inform as to why things are. I know we have this discussion every year when we.
Yeah.
Get into DPW, so we'll continue to have it, that. So I didn't go, again, this is just the first pass, this is as I sent it out to everybody for their confirmation. I have not heard from Heather or Troy. They've been out of storms and whatnot, I'm sure. This goes hand in hand with that equipment replacement. You know,
Mhm.
spreadsheet. I kind of want to reserve that until we have a better handle on. Fire department request as well, because I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe part of that station location study, Alex, is recommendations on fleet size and how to address, what. The core fleet may be, and it may have an impact, or it may be something to look at, I don't know. But it doesn't make sense to really look at that in that level of detail until we have a better figure of what request is. So what you see in here, the requests haven't changed, we're still tracking the same burial equipment and years out beyond the 5-year plan.
Mhm.
I did add Alex and Tom had made, sorry, I'm looking for that now. The requested the A613 second ambulance. That's a 2011 piece of equipment they just purchased in 2022.
Right,
Yeah, that's a lot more.
Just updating things like that. That refurb is complete now, right, Alex, on A513?
Yes,
That's
that is complete and it's in service.
And then squad 113. We got a refurb approved last year.
Yeah, it's not started yet, that's in the.
The only thing I did add was the ET 149. And ET 213, the 1991 tanker. It came up in discussion of this fleet, basically, sometimes they include that as year 5 request because of their age.
Mhm.
I just made a note, plan consideration on this, again,
Yeah.
I think that falls into the larger discussion of what these long-term, how we fund long-term costs and what that need looks like. So that's where it stands, what I will do, I'll finalize this at some point. It's really gonna come up, what I'm hoping is when we get it, DPW and the fire departments, then we'll have a better sense of, we can look at
Yeah.
that spreadsheet live. For long-term replacement costs
Mhm.
and just see, we can play with it and have that discussion. I don't think we're gonna get the detail we need from anybody yet to really make an informed decision as to. But I think we can understand enough to make recommendations, as to, it would be advantageous if we could do something or something, yeah,
Mhm.
and we can all discuss that later. I think any other, before I move off that, is there any other documentation you guys want or need that we've discussed previously as a refresh before we really get into the next 5 weeks of talking to people? I tried to set this up as, here's the background and, all right.
Can I give a copy of this to Steph Summers?
I don't see why not.
She's gonna ask for
Or
Yeah.
Jason, you want to get a copy of that stuff, son? It doesn't
it.
matter.
Yeah, I'll get.
Well, like, you're technically the Board of Finance, but you also,
Yeah,
yeah, that's fine. She should be aware of at least.
but this was made for somebody else, I'm guessing. But I just wouldn't want anybody to throw these away, cause I know this took a long time to do.
We have extras, Lisa,
There's 2 here, there's 1 there.
as long as Lisa has one, you can take it. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. So next up, discussion outreach efforts. We did touch on this a little bit. I included Mike's, the letter. I really included this one, so that's the overarching, we want to have a better collaborative approach to long-term financial management, but similar to last year. I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about what the outreach of this committee should be to, say, Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, as given that we now have this backdrop. Last year, we did pull together a letter that can be revamped, that kind of went out at the start of the season, basically saying these are some of the big ticket items. That are gonna influence our discussions this year, just to get that out there, we can do something similar to that again, it's going to be the same letter.
Yeah.
Essentially, because the situation hasn't changed and there is an advancement, but, you know, from a point of spending. I think, actually, Mike, you guys issued a letter to the departments, right, about budgetary suggestions.
We came up with one, I don't know if it's gone out yet.
When it goes out, can you make sure we're kind of included on that distribution? Because I'd like to just understand, you know.
Yeah, that would be
CIP
helpful.
Given CIP is an increasing component of the budget picture, I would like to understand, I know the guidance is gonna be, I think, as in any year, the guidance is be
It's
as
very,
conservative as possible. We're going to have some, I think, when we get towards, we're following budget season, we're gonna have some impact that voters are gonna need to sign off on for any one of a couple of big projects, so,
yeah, the letter's very similar to the one that Jeff wrote the previous year, it's just more in Steph's voice than Jeff's voice.
keep it tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the guidance to the departments. I will say I just speaking casually, I imagine it will be advantageous for. The school building committee for budget season to be done in advance of that work, so they can evaluate the budget and the budgetary impact of that project on an approved budget. Rather than both overlapping at the end of June or early June. By the latest, so. To the degree that we can keep this tight, I suspect in alignment with the letter that will come to us. As requested, we're gonna wanna try to be as. Efficient this year as we try to be every year, keep it as tight as we can. Do we wanna issue a letter?
Can you just send it out first to remind
Yeah.
us of what it?
Yeah, because I don't think I think when the website transitioned, it's no longer up there, so I will have to find it and distribute it. Let me make a note to do that.
Thank you.
Yep. Has anybody checked out the website as an aside? The meetings are easier to have, the calendars up, I think it's been an efficient.
I still somehow managed to mess it up, but that's operator error, it's, say, it's way better.
All right.
And we made more improvements today, this afternoon. The calendars are getting more inclusive. So there's less looking around for calendars. We're trying to pull it all to feed into the main front calendar.
There you go, you fixed it for Jen, Mike.
Thanks.
It's not perfect yet, but it's closer.
Improvements every day, I appreciate the efforts on it. Because anything we can do to avoid questions coming here, it's great. All right. I will pass that around and we can follow up, as a additional conversation on a future agenda over the next week or two. I added 3G to the list at the start, or we added 3G to the list just to discuss Donna's, our business managers. Anticipated leave. This came out on Monday. You guys have a copy of the letter. Basically, she's taking some time off to deal with a family issue. Mike, we
Yes.
wanna kind of work with you, and I guess the finance office and, you know, not burdening in your budget season, but I do want to figure out, preferably before Donna departs, where we stand on fund balances and get kind of an accurate accounting. I know a deep audit of prior approved projects is probably out of the cards, given the transitions and you know, the extra effort that's gonna happen in that office over the coming years, but I do want to make sure before we leave that we have a sense or a plan to get fund summaries in a timely manner so that we can make informed decisions on project discussions. So
I
don't-
agree 100%. And I will say that I agree that it's going to be challenging, but it is also my goal that we dig out more of this information, including projects that need to be closed out that have funds available, things we need to clear up to release grants for new cycles, all that kind of stuff. The good news is, and as I said in the selectmen's meeting, we don't typically talk about a staff person and you know the staffing matters in public as much as we do in this case because of Donna's impact on this process. So here we are talking about it, and the key to what we're putting together in the building for a plan is that Phil and I worked together very carefully because obviously the town budget and the school budget are the two big users of the shared service in the finance office. It also allowed us to put our heads together. The team in there has been great. And they were very open to supporting, making sure Donna understood she could leave without worrying to handle what needed to be handled outside of work. And the work is already ongoing right now for cross training. Um, and we're going to add an employee. We're pulling an employee from the schools part time in back into the finance office who has worked there before, already has all the security clearances, and has a very good track record of accuracy and efficiency in the office. So basically, we're just going to really team effort it, and we're going to continue to be available to whatever we need to be available for. The biggest key is we need efficiency all around because of the extra workload being split. And so that means like we got to minimize phone calls for questions, and we've got to put things in email when possible so that the staff can work. If they're in the middle of a project, they can keep the flow of that project, even if it's something as simple as payroll. You know, payroll is like a 3.5 day process every 2 weeks. If the payroll person has to take phone calls during that process, that becomes a 4 day process. So just as an example. So we're going to encourage that everyone seeking information does it as efficiently as possible, but we're not going to reduce the services that are available.
Yeah, I mean, I broached the conversation just because I want us to be able to be supportive. I want to be supportive, you know, I want us to be able to support the work of the finance department and quite frankly, stay out of the way of the larger need, which is the Board of Ed budget and your development. In the limited time you have her, I just want to make sure that that the limited needs that we will need don't get lost in that shuffle.
Yeah, the specifically to the available funds and fund balances, which are, you know, really critical, particularly in capital planning, but are critical in that budget building conversation also. That is one of the key topics that is being worked on before Donna leaves. And I have promised Sherry that as she jumps into being involved in the budget process, in meetings and all that, and essentially taking the role of Donna in that budgetary process, that we will try to prepare her as best ahead and then, you know, sort of be sitting alongside her whenever possible, whether that's figuratively or physically, to keep it going. So we really are trying to set a lot of these up before Donna leaves.
Yeah, I mean, if it's as simple as just getting a current fund balance, I think we can plan accordingly. I just don't know how big of a lift that is to pull and, you know, I have a sense of how intricate it can be to track, active project status. So, you know, just to the best that we can. So I'll defer to you as to how to kind of interact, so I don't overburden them. The request is out there. You let me know what you think the best strategy is for getting that efficiently over the next couple of weeks if possible.
We're on it.
All right, thank you, sir.
And definitely, if you are worried that time's ticking, you haven't heard, or you've got a question that isn't just a simple technical question for the office, you can feel free to email me and Donna at the same time through the end of, I think it's next week. After that, it should be Sherry and me.
Okay.
That's oh man.
Yeah, it is that simple. All right, never mind. So it'll be sure. In all likelihood. Yeah, I don't wanna. I don't want us to get in the way of that. I just wanna make sure that, the transition's in place. So we'll not critically need until early February at the latest, I think, when we really start looking at the comprehensive plan. So just have that on your radar, Mike, and we'll have follow-up conversations in the weeks to come. All right, just lost my agenda. There we go. Old business committee member contact information. I passed that around. I am sending this to the clerk tomorrow.
Okay.
It's going away. I just wanted to make sure that I had you and you in particular, because I know you.
I changed address.
Yes. So, that and I think, you know, with new appointments like planning and zoning and stuff
Yes.
like that, you might have, but we're good. It's
Yeah.
accurate. That's all I got. Present to speak. There might be, we gotta just bring that up online. Nope. So it's the same crew that was in the room and online at the start of the
I
meeting.
just have one question. If
Certainly.
possible, when you guys are reviewing the big spreadsheet, is it possible to put it online or on the TV? Or is it too big of a pain?
So
Just it's small on the TV.
it's small on the TV.
Okay, it's just, you guys are talking about it, so those in the audience, it's hard to follow along with what you're.
So it's small on the TV. Also, this tends to be really raw and preliminary, which is as submitted. I think it's more critical as we. Yes, I think the answer is yes, when I prefer to do it when we actually have a better
Yeah,
sense of
that's fine.
technical requirements and we have a sense of realistically what we're talking about before. Oh my God, you know, they're requesting way more than the ultimate plan that we're talking about actually. Just here's what you guys all submitted. This is not gonna look like what the final plan is.
No.
Good. Thank you, but point well taken, thank you. I'll just say it for the sake of the recording. Anybody online present to speak? Going once, going twice, hearing none. Thank you very much for attending.
To adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Meeting adjourned at 8:12 PM.